Hey everybody, thanks for joining for another Unity tutorial, and in this video I'm going to be going over RayCasts. So, all I have set up right now is a basic scene with a player and a ground, and I also have a couple obstacles spread throughout the scene. And the first thing I'm going to be doing is just shooting a RayCast from the player's position in the direction he's facing, and checking to see if it touches one of those obstacles. So, to do that, I'm going to go to the main camera, and I'm going to add a script called RayCasts. So in the script, I am going to remove the start method, and I'm going to make a reference to a layer mask, because I'm going to need that when I do the RayCasts. So I'm going to create a public layer mask called obstacle mask. And then in the update, I am going to first of all get the data from the obstacle I hit. So you have to do that. You have to do RayCast hit, and I'm just going to call this hit info. And then I have to shoot the ray. So I'm going to do an if, and then to shoot a ray you have to do physics.raycast. And then in parentheses it takes a ray, which basically is just one position, and then it just takes in two parameters, being a position and the direction you want to shoot in. So the position being the transform.position, which is just your object's position. And then for the distance, or the direction, I'm going to do the direction I'm facing, which is transform.forward. So that's the ray. Then you have to put in your the data from the object you hit, which in this case would be hit info. But you have to out hit info. So I'm going to do out hit info. Then I'm going to do the layer map, or I'm going to do the distance first. So what I'm just going to make a public variable, make it a float called range. Then I'm going to just put in the range for the distance of it. I'm just going to set that to a default value of like 100. Then I'm going to then put in the layer mask, so being the obstacle mask. And so basically anything I would have put in this if statement would basically be if the RayCast hit the object, or hit the obstacle. So what I want to do is I want to check to see if I hit the obstacle. I want to then draw a line from my position. So I'm going to do transform.position. Which, if you're confused about that at all, essentially just the transform. Since it's a lowercase t, it's just the transform that the script is on. And the transform has a position, rotation, and scale. I'm just calling the position, which is the position of my player. So I'm then going to do, for the end, I want to do the hit info dot point, which is basically the point that I touch the obstacle. But that's only if I touch an obstacle. What if I don't touch an obstacle? So I want to do an else. I just want to then draw a line from my position to just in the forward direction. So I just do which means actually in this case I'm just going to do debug dot draw ray from my position to the transform dot forward. And then for a color, I'm going to do color dot green. And then for the color up here, I'm going to do color dot red. So if I save this and then go out, in the RayCast it takes in an obstacle, a layer mask being the obstacle mask, and also the range, which is already set to 100. For the obstacle mask, I'm just going to go to this. I'm going to add a layer being the obstacle. I'm then going to go to the player, and I'm going to add in the obstacle mask. And I think that, yeah, so I'm going to go to all my obstacles, and then I'm then going to add the obstacle mask. Then I'm going to press play, and if this worked right, it should then draw a line. So it is working, it's just for I draw a green line, I have to specify how long I think I want it to be. So I'm going to do the range. So now if I then press play, now it'll then draw a line in the forward direction for 100 units, and I can then modify what I want that range to be. So let's make it like 20. A little bit more reasonable of a number. Actually 10. So you see that green line, but then if I then go behind an obstacle, it then turns red and gets cut short. And if I then rotate my player, you can see that it's then red when it reaches the obstacles, but otherwise it's green. So that's working. And the second part of this video, all I wanted to do was make it to where I would have another point in the scene. So I'm just going to create a 3D sphere. I'm going to reset the position, well, just the transform component in general. I'm going to move it up by 0.5. I'm then going to move it along the X and Z axis over to the corner. And I'm just going to call this 0.2. Then I'm going to go to the player, and I'm going to go in the RayCast script. And I'm just going to delete all this. So I can then do it again, because I want to get a reference to the obstacle. Well, not the obstacle, but the point. Go to public, transform. And I'm going to call this 0.2. And then I want to then draw a line from, or draw a ray from the player to that point. So to do this, I'm going to do if physics.RayCast. And I actually forgot, I also have to get the info. So I'm going to do RayCast hit, call it hit info. And then I'm going to draw RayCast from the transform.position to, and now this is where you can't just put in the other point, you have to put in the direction that you want it to go in, which the direction would be the direction from that point to the player. And I could just write that in here, but since I'm also going to want to track the distance as well, it'll just be better just to create that in a separate thing, separate variable. So I'm going to create a vector 3, call it direction, set it equal to the 0.2 dot position minus the transform dot position. So essentially the direction is just the other point minus my point. Then the direction is going to be direction dot normalized. Then for the info, I'm going to do out hit info. Then I'm going to do the length of the line being the distance I am to the point, so that would be direction dot magnitude, which is the length of that direction. Then I'm going to do the layer mask, which is obstacle mask. So essentially that's just if I hit an obstacle. Like if a ray is shot from my player to the other point, if I hit the obstacle, I then want to then do debug.draw line from my position to the other point being hit info dot point, and I then want this to then be color.red. And then if I don't hit the obstacle, so in an else, I'm then going to do debug.draw line from my position to the other position, so I'm going to do 0.2 dot position, and I'll make this color.green. So this is very similar to what I had before, just instead of it shooting in the forward direction, it's now going to shoot from my position to this position. All I have to do is then just drag another point for the other position. And if I press play, there's a green line, and if I then go behind an obstacle, it's red. So that's working very nicely. It's going to be red if there's an obstacle, and it's going to get cut short, but if there's not an obstacle, it's going to be green, and it's going to get to the enemy. If that were to be an enemy, like let's say you want to see if the enemy is in your line of sight, you would also have to check to see how close you are to him. So, thanks everybody for joining me for this video, and join me for my next video.